Hello everyone and welcome along to One Hub Racing Season 27. We are back. It is the moment we've all been waiting for. It is time for some racing action with the Pinnacle, not the Pinnacle, that used to be the old P1 tier. It is the P1 tier. You can tell I've just come back from a race and I'm absolutely sweating. Welcome everybody, my name is Jespal and joining me as my co-commentator for this season, we had a pleasure of being accompanied with each other a few seasons ago, but he is back. We have Mr. Mike Edwards. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, Jess, and of course excited to be back here in P1. And honestly, looking at the grid for P1 is going to be very, very interesting week in and week out.
Honestly, I can definitely agree with that. We've got a really stacked grid and some interesting rounds coming up as well. And the adaptive weather system has definitely thrown a curveball for today's action. But before we do that, let's have a look at the lineup. As you can see on your screen, we've got a lineup that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for the season. Callum Unarmed and J. Cole. We have Colin and Nick in at the Ferrari, Roadbite and Collie in at the Red Bull, Marco and Camille in the Mercedes, Chris and Axelok in the Aston Martin, Furious and Ricardo in the Alpine, Catherine and Alexa in the Haas, Casper and Kieran in the Racing Bulls, Ben Mills and Lukey in the Williams, and Owen Wyatt and Pelzy in the Kick Sauber. That is a stacked up grid, I must say, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many drivers there that can take podiums and race wins as well. So it's going to be a very tight season, I think, where everyone's going to be like a little race here, a little race there, a little point gain here, a little point lost there. It's going to be so intriguing just to see like what is just going to happen. Of course, Silverstone, the first race of the season, it's a track that all these drivers would know like the back of their hand. It's essentially like another preseason race.
Yep, it is. Pretty much everybody loved this track. It is, of course, the home of British motorsport, first used in Formula One back in the 1950s, and it has had so much heritage, so much history as well. And it was actually brought to the idea of Silverstone back in 1948 before it was official in that. The layout changed in December 2009, which used to be, Cops Corner used to be turn one, now Abbey is now turn one. So quite a lot of things have changed in that regard. But without further ado, I need to turn my game sound down because it is very loud. But without further ado, let's get started with qualifying. Now at One Hub Racing, we have the adaptive weather system, and what the adaptive weather system is designed to do is to really stop the full wet races happen every so often, to make things a bit spicier for the drivers. So every Sunday at 12 o'clock during the pre-race show, a wheel gets spun and a weather combination for qualifying and a weather combination for the race gets revealed. And for both combos, the wheel was not very nice. It decided to throw us wet weather in both the quali and the race. It is very wet to overcast in quali and then very wet to overcast to wet in the race. I am intrigued to see how that's going to affect the drivers today in terms of setup, in terms of tyre choice, because after seeing what happened in the lower tiers, they probably had a little bit of an eye on what happened in the lower tiers. Pretty much almost everyone, Mike, has gone for the Inters.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I mean, as you said with the adaptive weather, I mean, for me, it's thrown out the perfect British conditions ever. Absolutely emptying it down, then overcast, and absolutely emptying it down once again. So it understood the mission at hand, I think the wheel did. But yeah, in terms of the tyre strategy, I mean, yeah, you've seen a lot of the drivers out there on the set of the intermediates on their first qualifying runs, where at this stage, you may think the wet tyres might be a little bit better for the conditions out there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially at the start of the race, because we did see in both P3 and P2, the wet tyres at the start were the better tyres to be on, but after around 3-4 laps, it does kind of start to level out a little bit.
I think that's in both qualifying and the race. So I think that more people would definitely try and see what is going on there. So here comes Casper Klein in the P1 tier, heading toward Stowe Corner. You'll be going in a lower gear than you would in the dry, of course. Heading towards Vale now. You got to clip all that curve. With a wet setup, there will be riding the curves a bit more. Casper struggling a little bit in the final corner. What's it going to be? Our first lap time of the day, 1:43.7. That is definitely a beatable lap time. We've got more drivers up to finish their lap times. One of them is Kieran. He is back in One Hub Racing. Great to have him back. He goes up to the line now. Again, a big slide for me, but not as much as Casper. We'll see what he could do. He goes up to the line with a 1:43.5.
Yeah, 1:43.5 from Casper. Ricciardo coming through 43.5 along with Kieran. Ben Mills with a 43.7 as well, and Lukey on the Inters 42.8. Now Lukey, a driver who, of course, Jess, I mean, we saw the preseason race. We had a little gander. Lukey was saying that he was struggling throughout all of that, so I think him setting a provisional pole position lap time is going to boost his confidence massively.
Yes, and of course, with it being wet weather conditions, that means the balance of the setup is a bit more stable, and he probably likes that as well. And as I was saying, that Callum goes 1/10 quicker. So to be 1/10 slower than Callum for Lukey, that is very, very impressive, as we saw Coley going in 10th fastest. So I think for the round one to start completely wet, I think this is, again, like another preseason race. We won't know fully the pace of the dry conditions until round two, but you never know, it might rain again. And with the adaptive weather system, it could throw more curveballs than ever, and we could have 4 wet races in a row, but then after that there'll be no more wet races, then they'll completely dry all the time, so you never know. So we got more drivers on laps, and the benefit of this being very wet to overcast qualifying, with most people on Inters, they won't just be doing a lap then going into the pit. If I were them, do multiple laps on a set of the tyres really can help heat the tyres for a good operating window. The fuel gets burnt, and you get used to the track as well, because with every lap you're on track, the track just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And Ben Mills has proved my point completely, and he goes at P1. Now, I've done a few notes, Mike, about P1, and I was predicting that Ben Mills would be the champion this season. Why? You think, oh, Callum Unarmed will be the champion. He's missing a couple of races, and Callum will need to win quite a lot of races in order for him to be champion. As Roadbike goes P2, that's really impressive. But Ben Mills, Mike, was looking very good in the pre-season race, and he hasn't been in One Hub for a few seasons, and he's just adapted very quickly. And as I just said, that Callum's gone past it again by about a second.
Yeah, honestly, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously, if he was competing in every single race, Callum Arnold might be everyone's picking now for the P1 Championship. But the fact he's missing a few races really does throw things up in the air, because you got so many drivers that are very capable. I mean, Colin Mason, they're popping up in the P2 with a 40.7. Very impressive lap time for him. He's making his return as well. J. Cole in P3 also making his return, along with Ben Mills. A lot of very quick drivers have found their way back to the P1 grid, Jess.
Honestly, that makes me so excited, like having 3 tiers again, because F125, I have to say, when I ask people what they thought F125, a majority of people were like, yep, love it, and they returned back. And it is quite interesting to see the amount of tracks that people like as well, as Kieran, as the times get quicker and quicker. Again, take these times with a pinch of socks. We're going to have even quicker times later on as well. And I have to say, a lot of drivers, when I've been asking them what their goals for the season, quite a few people are going for consistency, but there's quite a few people that want to just turn up and win. Roadbike being one of them. Roadbike is one of our new drivers to One Hub Racing. Welcome along. And it's great to see a new driver just right out of the gates qualify enough to get into the P1 tier and set a really competitive lap time on the Inters to begin with as well. And for him to set an expectation just to go out there and have some fun, that's a good one to start with, and you could just learn from there, and anything else is a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously for the new drivers coming in, like obviously what we've seen over the qualifying week from them, and obviously in the preseason race, has put them in a very good spot. And obviously we've got some drivers as well that have seen vast improvements. Of course, Catherine, who last season was in P2, obviously your teammate from last season. She's come on absolute leaps and bounds, and now she's right in the mix in P1.
Yeah, Catherine, I have to say, she's running no line as well, which makes things, I think, very impressive for her. I mean, she is getting used to the game quite a lot, and she even thinks that F125 is a lot better for her as well. So, I mean, those were one of the drivers where I was really impressed with. I was not expecting Catherine to be up there. I thought she would have been in there in P2. Her main expectations, according to the pre-race interviews, is to score as much points as she can. And she likes the track, she said, but the thing that the drivers, I think, are going to find difficult, and that's what she said earlier on, track limits and getting to grips with the dirty air, because as you noticed in the lower tiers, Mike, dirty air can play a massive factor. You can't just get into the slipstream and try and go for the move. You've got to play tactically, and the dirty air, especially in the wets and the spray, is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. The dirty air on F125 is definitely more apparent than previous game cycles. To the point where following a car, you are going to experience the understeer and get dragged a little bit wide. As Catherine there puts it on provisional pole with a 38.4, just ahead of Ben Mills. So a very good lap from Catherine. However, I'm looking at the track now, and obviously on my end, Jess, I am seeing a lot of wet compound tires, but I've also got the stream open. And I'm seeing a lot of intermediate, so I'm not sure what is going on. But yeah, I'm starting to think maybe towards the end of the session we could be seeing dry tires. Look at Owen Wyatt in the pit lane on the set of softs.
I'm a bit shocked that he hasn't gone out for another lap, to be honest, but I think he's gambling. But we've seen in pretty much every session, the practice session we did is different to the tiers we done just now. It dries up in different times because the weather is set to approximate, and that's what goes fastest. People may think, oh, in P3, it dried up with 2 minutes to go, blah, 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 blah. We should go out on soft then. No. Because it's set to approximate, it will dry out at different points in different sessions. So the drivers have got to go with their gut feeling. They can't rely on what just happens in the lower divisions. They got to just trust their instinct and just see how the track is doing. If they think it's going to dry up, then go on softs. Obviously, we don't know in the commentary box when it's going to dry up, but that's the beauty of the adaptive weather system, of how it can change like that. We'll see who else is going to come across the line, as we got, I think, Callum's teammate of Jaco. Of course, my co-commentator from last season, he just goes in into the pits. Great to see him back in the league. He's another driver that was very keen to return to One Hub Racing, and he's just, I think his main goal, Mike, is to get the constructors with Callum, and also try and see if he could be fighting with him for the drivers. It's kind of like turning into a deja vu, like in real life, isn't it? Where we have both McLarens fighting for the drivers and constructors.
Absolutely, and obviously, I'm kind of hoping and praying that Callum does well. Of course, my teammate from last season. So I'm hoping that he does very well this season. He definitely looks to be more in tune on the pace on this game compared to the previous game, as he's 3.5 seconds up on his lap time right now, Jess. So we could be seeing a new provisional pole lap coming in from Callum and Armchair.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, as Callum's coming to the pits. That I think is a smart move, because otherwise you're gonna lose so much time coming in and you won't have time to go into the pits. So fair enough. Everyone, if I was them, go into the pit lane. So we'll go for your order then in terms of who's qualified where at the moment. So we've got Marco in P1, Ricardo P2, Axelot in P3, Casper in 4th, J. Cole in 5th spot, Kieran in P6, Collie in P7, Catherine in P8, Ben Mills in 9th, and Lukey, your top 10. And obviously there were some people that went out at different times, so again, take that with a pinch of soul. One other driver, Mike, that I'm really glad to see him back at One Hub Racing, I'll find his pre-race interviews whilst we talk about him, is Chris. He was last in One Hub Racing a few seasons ago, and I think it was like season 21 or season 22 he was last with us. And honestly, he took a break from it. He had to go F124, realised F125 was good, so he decided to throw his hat into the ring. And when he was asked, it's his first time racing in 3 years, he's just trying to get up to speed. There's some very quick drives in this tier. He said he doesn't have very high expectations, so his main expectation is to get up to speed with the game and with the tier, which is fair enough with a lot of our returning drivers. One of our new drivers, Road Bike, comes in P1, but with our returning drivers, it is just pretty much just getting the feel of the game, and also be aware of your surroundings who you're going to be racing with.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, for the returning drivers, it's not only getting back into the swing of things in terms of just the pace, but it's also getting back into the swing of things in learning how to drive with the drivers that they used to race many seasons ago. Because, as you know, over the years, there are some drivers that have gone from being quite passive to now they will fight for positions and they will get their elbows out. So it's going to be a learning curve for Chris early on, and yeah, I mean, it's a very good idea for him to just kind of settle into the P1 tier, see where he's stacking up in terms of pace, and see which drivers and that he can battle with, and which ones are aggressive, which ones are a little bit less aggressive, and who he can actually go toe to toe with.
I remember him and Axelot when I think they were both in precision tier. They were battling a lot, and it was a privilege of me commentating with them. And with Axelot and Chris being teammates, when they were asked about whether they enjoyed being teammates, Axelot saying they was very happy, and they do have the record for the most constructor championships together, so it made sense for them to tie up. And Axelot's main goal, even though Chris has been really downplaying on expectations, Axelot's like constructors. He wants constructors and top 3 in drivers. Axelot is aiming quite high, whereas Chris is just being like, just try and settle in. And sometimes you want a teammate that's confident and a teammate that's still trying to learn the ropes. As we've got 1 minute and 35 seconds on the clock. And unlike what we saw in P2 tier earlier, just like we saw in P3 though, it has stopped raining.
Yeah, absolutely. The rain has stopped falling, so I mean, Casper's out there on the set of the soft tires. Owen changed to Inters last second, and I think he might be kicking himself for changing tires, because I feel like on the flying laps now is where the dry tires are going to start to come into it.
Yes, and Road Bike, I think, is just coming out a little bit too late, so that'll be his over. So we're going to watch Casper's lap as he goes through, but I think we will start to see the track being a bit slippy, but it's almost dry in some places, so we're going to have to wait and see. Let us know your thoughts in the chat on who you think is going to get pole position for tonight's P1 race. Your current pole time is set by Axelot with a 1:36.209 as he makes his way through in towards Stowe. He's setting purple set to do, but the ones that are going to be the quickest are going to be the last people out on the road. So if you're on Inters, if you're the last of the Inters to set a lap and you set a good one, you're going to be one of the quickest, and that's really going to help you. So Axelot maybe not be in the best position for now unless he's got really high ERS and he's able to burn them very quickly, but the checker flag is about to drop. I think he can go again if he wants to. Axelot goes P1 with a 1:34.302. His teammates about to cross the line. We also got Nick, who has just come across the line in P2. That is very impressive for Nick, Mike.
Yeah, and then Colin pips him. So Nick again in a battle with his teammate. Of course, last season it was Lucky, now it's Colin.
Yep, indeed. Final few laps of qualifying still to go. Owen couldn't do enough to beat his best lap time. He'll be kicking himself that he wasn't on the softs. He goes 5th fastest. Callum Unarmed is next, I believe. Yes, he is. The current championship favourite. He goes fastest with a 1:33.462. That was absolutely rapid. We've got one of the Hazards that are coming in. Catherine goes into P7. We got one of the Williams, I believe that is... No, it's not one of the Williams. It's one of the Alpines. Never mind. Ricardo goes first. Right. Let's keep an eye on the Mercedes. Mercedes going up to line. Marco goes P1. But watch out for Casper. Casper is the one to beat right now. I can't tell if he's gone quicker, but we'll have to wait and see. We've got more time to be on the board. Ben Mills goes P2. Jay Cole's about to finish his run, but the man who has hopefully got it right is looked like he's going to score his first pole of the season and get his season off to a great start. What's it going to be? No! P5, he has not done enough. A few more people slotting. Lukey, P4. What? That is insane. But what could J. Cole do? P9, it looks like on my dash. Yeah, P9. So, Casper, it was on softs. I think it didn't look like the softs had the most grip. And it was Marco that slots himself into pole position by 0.08 of a second. Then we got Ben Mills, Callum, Lukey. That is my, I think, dark horse, I have to say, my biggest good surprise. Then we have Kieran from Casper, Atslot, Ricardo, J. Cole, Colin in 10th, and we got Alexa, Collie, Nick, Chris, Owen, Catherine, Pelsey, and Robot. And the later you were on your lap, the quicker that you would be. And what a qualifying session. We thought the softs were going to be the best tyre, but no, the Inters was the right tyre to be on at the final part of qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It was worth the gamble from Casper, I think, though, to try the soft tyres, because, of course, the rain did stop. It was just the track was too cold and too green for the soft tyres to really bite into the circuit, which is unfortunate for him. But as I'm not going to lie, the Williams pairing has shocked me here. Lukey up in P4, and, of course, you guys, a teammate on the front row. That is going to be a very interesting start to the race, because they can work together as a team from the get-go.
Yes, and it's very important, especially if you want to win the Constructors' Championship, to have your teammate nearby potentially. Go for someone, especially in this tier, because it's going to be different than the lower tiers. With this tier, with this group so really closely matched, you got to go with someone that's similar to your pace, and you think you could win a Constructors' Championship with them as well. Lukey, I think, got absolutely screwed by the fact that that he didn't get picked for a team, which I was quite shocked about. But he's gone with a Williams. He's gone for a really quick driver of Ben Mills, which I have to say is a very good pairing, which is really, really great to see. And, of course, we have many drivers that it's their first showing at One Hub Racing that definitely want to impress. Just like we've seen in both tiers. We've seen a lot of new drivers in both tiers earlier on today that have impressed us at One Hub Racing already.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of that over the entire season. I think with the new drivers going to be impressing over the course of the entire season. Obviously, going into the race now, though, Jess, is going to be the big decision. Do you start on the wet tyres to get the early advantage of that first 6-ish laps, or do you start on the inters?
Well, if you asked me that 5-6 hours ago, I would have no idea. And I think quite a few drivers will have no idea as well. I think there will be some people that want to get the early advantage, but if you want to avoid... Because the pit lane is really long, 30-second pit loss. So if you want to just brave it, go on inters, because then you won't have to make that extra pit stop. You're going to gain a 30-second advantage compared to everybody else, and you're just going to be a few seconds quicker per lap anyway. Yes, 2 or 3 laps is going to be slower at first, but after lap 4 or lap 5, you're going to be flying, absolutely flying compared to everybody else. So I would definitely probably try inters and be brave, but I know there'll be certain people that just want to get the advantage early on, try and create that gap and see what they can do. The media guys have been very busy, and they brought one of our newest drivers, Coley, to the drivers press conference. And he was asked, welcome to One Hub Racing. It's great to have you here. First of all, what are your first impressions of the league, and what are you first looking forward to for this season? Now, Coley is a driver who was having a battle with Axelot in the pre-season race, and he very, very impressed me. And he was one of the drivers I picked out in the pre-race show at 12 o'clock, and him doing well. And he was saying in the pre-race in his press conference that he thinks that it's very competitive this tier, but he can't wait to race on such a high level with some of the fastest guys. He said that the pre-season race was interesting to how he compared himself to the rest, and he wants to see where he has to improve before the season starts. Good mindset to think alike, Mike, I think, for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, he's come in, obviously, new driver now. He's had a bit of a battle with a veteran in the league in Axelot, and yeah, he's enjoyed the battle that he had so far. And looking at the level in P1 this season is incredibly tight. So he's going to be getting a lot of battling over the course of the season, and it's good that he is relishing in the chance of battling with these guys, as he said, on such a high level.
Yep, and I mean, quite a few of the new drivers are impressed anyway in this league already, so I wonder if he's going to be doing exactly the same thing there as well. So a quick reminder, of course, of the rules to One Hub Racing. Of course, it's not going to apply this week, but every driver has to take at least one engine and one gearbox penalty for engine wear this season. But the new addition to the rule is they can't take a gearbox and an engine penalty at the same time. So they can't take a 15 place grid penalty in one race, which means they have to take an engine penalty in one race and a gearbox in another. That means that it'll be more strategic and less predictable, because pretty much everybody, almost everybody, including myself, use their engine and gearbox penalties in one sitting. So that means you're going to think of two races where you think, right, do I pick a track that is easier for overtaking, or would you pick a track which you may not be strong at, or a bit of both? We don't know. It is up to the driver, really. So that rule change is definitely, I think, going to make a difference to what we're going to see as we're about to ready up. But the engine wear rule change is going to be very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm already I'm already looking at certain circuits and that to possibly take one of those penalties at. The one that has caught my eye early on is Baku.
Yes, I think we saw a lot of people take it, I think, a few seasons ago when they had the engine penalty as well. And there's a quick rundown of the calendar, actually, where it's Silverstone this week. Montreal could be a good one, but they won't get their engine to the end. But we also got the likes of Monza, where you can overtake like crazy. We've got Brazil, but that'll be a bit too late. I would say people might take it either at Spa or Austin, because you can overtake more a bit as well. But in terms of the calendar, whilst we're at the calendar, Carl, Mike, I'll be speaking to quite a lot of people today. It's crazy. What would you say is a track that you're gonna think that is gonna be a good race for P1?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I have history with this circuit, and in terms of commentating, I've never commentated over a bad race at this track. So, for me, it's Singapore.
Yes, Singapore has always been good, I think, in the last few game cycles. For me, it's got to be Brazil, championship finale. I really do hope that the championship does get decided at Brazil, because otherwise it will go crazy. But Brazil's always fun. Spa, Monza, Canada's going to be interesting, but we know with penalties it's going to be quite a busy situation. So before we go to the main race action, let's have a quick look at our sponsors. Next Level Racing, providing a lot of pride this season. More information to be confirmed, but they've been supporting us since, I think, season 12, and we would like to say thank you for all their support. Our newest sponsor, Sim Racing Setups. They provide setups on F125, and the Sim Racing Setup driver of the day for each tier gets a £10 gift voucher, and that will happen each week. So we may have people getting more than one sim racing setup voucher. You never know. And also there's a sim racing setup discount if you use 5%. No, if you use the code 1HubRacing, you can get 5% off at checkout. You can get all the lovely setups. I had the command there as well. If you do exclamation SRS for more information. Pure Sim Gear, they're providing gloves and socks to the most combined poles and fastest laps. And there's also a discount code, as you can see on your screen. We also have our partners, Vespertine, that support our championship apparel. They also provide prizes for the Hub Racing driver rankings. And also the Going Gets Tough award that provide the Race the Dream t-shirt, which I've got on right now because I won it last time. And then finally, our partners at SimGrid. Without SimGrid, we will have Google Forms and spreadsheets, and it'll be an absolute nightmare. So thank you to all our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to go racing. Quickly, before we go to the main race action, Mike, who's your top three?
Ooh. I'm gonna go Callum and Arn for the race win. Ben Mills, P2. And I'm gonna go.
Please don't pick what I just said. Anyway, we are about to get racing here in P1 tier for the first time, and we are underway. And as the timings are going very crazy, so I can't see who's where, but Marco getting a really good start. So did Callum as well. They're right in the middle. There's quite a few people running a bit wide. I do apologise. It's really hard to see the timings because road right, I believe, is desync, and it's an absolute nightmare. But it is Ben Mills from Callum, from Marco. Lukey stays in P5. There's all a bit of side-by-side action there. Callum's been pushed wide. There's a lot of sliding happening at the moment. It'll be interesting to see what tyres people are on. We've got the two racing bulls side by side heading towards Brooklyn's corner now, and Ricardo's joining in the front as well. Look at the spray. It's so hard to see right now. It's going to be very tricky. We got a mixture of people on inters and a mixture of people on wets, but there will be a few people braving the conditions out. But luckily the timings are fixed and we're all good to go again. Ben Mills leads from Marco and from Callum.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like a lot of the drivers have opted for the wet compound tyres to get underway. I'm seeing a lot of blue wall tyres on these cars, so they've opted for the early advantage, Jess, of the grip on the wets. Lukey, the only one in the top 10, opting for the set in the mediums. Intermediate, sorry.
Yes, Lukey setting on the intermediate tyres, as well as Nick, Chris, Colin and Owen. So they're going to hope that, of course, it dries out later on. As you can see, Casper trying to get the lunge on Lukey. Casper having the advantage of the tyres for now, and he really wants to gain momentum now as Casper is through it into P5. Chris doing the same on Nick. Brilliant move from Chris, but he's going to try and get back. Goes Nick, goes to the left-hand side into club corner. Is it going to be plain sailing for our owner, Nick Egan, side by side towards the Hamilton straight through into turn one of Abbey, and Nick gets the job done. Nick up into P12, but meanwhile we're on lap 2. Ben still holding Marco strong here right now as we enter the Wellington straight for the second time of asking. Nick's not doing too bad. No, Lukey's not doing too bad on a set of inters, but you can see he's trying to lose a bit of grip here. So, like I was saying earlier, the first few laps, it will be okay. But after that, the wets are just going to overheat. So, if I was Lukey, just be patient.
Yeah, you just got to be patient and keep up with decent pace, and he'll be right back in a few laps' time. One driver that has struggled off the start is Colin, down 5 positions off the start. So he's had a bit of a horror time at the start of this race, and he's looking to get himself back in on the back of Owen Wyatt now for P14. But yeah, the wet tyres are definitely the tyres to be on at this stage in the race, as you're seeing the gap form between Nick and Coley there in P11 and P12, and of course the gap between Casper and Lukey as well.
Yep, I think we're starting to see the inters lose a bit of ground for now, so maybe the ones who have got that early advantage on the wet will probably make the right decision, but they may have to compromise with the pit stop later, and with the weather set to approximate, you never know, it could dry out quite quickly, so these have got to be on their A game right now, as we're seeing, I think, ERS usage, as you can see on the bottom. Ben Mills setting the time screens alight. He's got plenty of ERS, whereas Marco, you can see, he has got a lot that he has got to harvest. He's got to recharge quite quickly, and Ben could just use quite a bit of VRS on the Wellington Straight to defend for his life here as they go into the Wellington Straight. The top three are pretty much running away with it right now. Kieran doing quite well as well. Racing Bulls, I didn't think they would have a running in the constructors, but they seem to me doing quite well. Meanwhile, Owen Wyatt and Chris going side by side there. Chris, couldn't defend from Owen Wyatt there, but he tried his best, bless him. Chris having a bit of a slide into the Wellington Straight. Can he go for the lunge and get past Owen into Brooklands? No, he does not. Owen has the edge right now, up into 13th place. So we'll see what these drivers could do in the midfield, because don't forget, Mike, the top 12 score points in this league, so every point counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now the man in P12 is Nick, so he's ahead of that train, and I think now we're starting to see the intermediates and the wet tires begin to balance out in pace, because now the gaps are not really spreading out. If anything, they're starting to stabilize.
Yep, it looks like it, doesn't it? I think pretty much a crossover point where, if you ask Mark, for wets and inters are pretty much at equal footing. So it's about personal preference. And you can see Lukey's already catching up to Casper quite quickly. So I think it will get to a point where the inters might be the faster tyre. But we saw in the P2 race, didn't we? Some people that stayed out on inters from lap 1, they lost a bit of pace when they were about to pit, mainly because they were on those inters for so long, and the ones that did wet inters were faster than them. So it really does depend on the pace that they have, really, for the drivers, and the battles that you have as well. Because just because a strategy may work in a lower tier, it may not work in P1.
Exactly. And another thing to keep an eye on as well, Jess, is the undercut. Obviously, we know how powerful the undercut is. We saw it worked absolute miracles that in P2 and in P3 earlier on, where the earlier you pit, the better your advantage is on the undercut. But I think that's the reason why a lot of the drivers have gone for the set of the wets, because they can make that earlier pit stop and then get a nice undercut on those on the inters.
Yeah, I could see what you mean as well. That's probably why quite a lot of people done it. And I really like the variance of strategies in each tier. I mean, it's incredible. It shows what the adaptive weather system can bring to you. And it seems to me a lot of people have got a balance in terms of their tyre now, in terms of it hardly overheating. And watch out for the dirty air, Mike. There'll be quite a few people that don't want to run close into a slipstream as much, because otherwise your engine's going to overheat quite quickly. But Lukey was almost 2 seconds behind Casper. He's now 6/10. We're not seeing that much of a change in terms of the at the background in the midfield. But in between Lukey and Casper, you can see Lukey is doing all his might to get past. And this is really great to see him doing well in the intermediate conditions, because in the dries, he was saying, bless him, that he was struggling and he didn't think he deserved to be in his tier. As he's right on the gearbox of Casper as we enter the Hamilton Straight. I don't think he's going to go for the move there. And with track position being key, he's going to lose out so much time.
Yeah, and of course, being that close to the car in front, he's going to be hit with the dirty air and the understeer that he's going to get off the back of Casper. I was on board with him earlier when he came through Cobb's corner, and the understeer just dragged him off track, and he might have picked up a warning for that. I would imagine so, but he needs to get past Casper as soon as possible, and it looks like he might go for it.
Anthony around the outside. Casper covers him off into Brooklands. Casper's going to defend for all his might. It becomes the inside. Throw it into Woodcote, and I don't think he's going to go for it there. And he's gone wide. Both of them have gone wide. They're changing positions. They do not want to be in each other's slipstream. They do not want to be in the dirty air. We'll go on board with Lukey right now into Cobb's corner. Aim your car to the right, and the dirty air is going to be an absolute havoc for Lukey. He's got to do it now. He's got to send it now. Casper made a mistake. He's got to be brave. We saw that with JR Mason in the contact between the two of them. That's allowed Casper to cut the corner. I wonder if there's going to be some arguments in the shoes win between those two. That's allowed Ricardo and Axelot and J. Cole to catch up.
Yeah, and here comes Ricardo on the ERS, and he is flying through, overtaking Casper. Might have a look on Lukey as well, thinks better of it, but opportunistic move there from Ricardo in the Alpine.
Yeah, Lukey's lost about 5 seconds to Kieran, so I think for some drivers, if you're stuck behind a tyre that's not meant to be the right tyre and you get a bit impatient, you make mistakes like that sometimes. As we're seeing Nick and Owen going side by side in towards the Hamilton straight. Owen, I think Nick was ahead and he's still ahead now. Owen almost got the job done into Stowe, but Nick is defending for his life right now. So we'll see what happens into here comes Owen. He's going to go around the outside into Village. Doesn't quite work. Into the loop and entry. He's going to try again into that tight chicane. It's going to be really hard work, but he's going to see what he could do anyway. Let's go on board. Oh, well, I'm going on board. As Owen's run a bit wide there, he missed his braking zone in towards the Wellington straight and he lost a bit of time. That's allowing Chris to say thank you very much. That's my position, but Owen is not going to give up without a fight. He's going to defend for his life, but he's going to be worried that Robot and Colin are going to catch him up. This is now buying stuff. If you battle too much, that's going to allow everyone else behind to catch up.
Yeah, and that's the catch-22 when you're going side by side, because ideally you don't want to be stuck behind the car in front, but at the same time as well, battling side by side, you just bring people into the battle that you don't necessarily want into that battle, and we're seeing that there with Chris and Owen now. It's opened the door now for potentially Robite and Colin to get involved in that battle.
Yeah. And I think we've seen that in the lower tiers as well. People do that as well. This is the closest battle that we've seen as well. We'll keep an eye on the guys at the front as Ben has gone into the pit. So has Callum. Marco has stayed out. And don't forget, at One Hub Racing, you got to make 2 mandatory stops, even in the wet conditions. So this is going to be important. So Ben's going to go on to set up the inters. So is Callum. And Kieran, I won't be surprised if he goes on to it as well. Of course, Lukey stays out because he's been on the intermediate tyres, so they all come out. So that means Marco is your race leader for now, but he's still got to go on to the intermediate conditions. Meanwhile, Nick's still going strong as he's trying to hold up Chris. What happened?
I just noticed Ben's on the set of the wet compound tyres. He didn't change the inders.
Ben has not changed your inders. We saw that in P3, didn't we? Where we thought, I can't remember who it was. Was it? I'm trying to remember now. Oh, it was, Burjax or whatever his name is. He stayed out on full wets, and well, it was a catch-22 there. It was like take a Ben and line it, and he had to stay out anyway. So, yeah. That is a bit unfortunate. So that's my commentator's curse out the way. I predicted him for the race win. Today, actually, no. I can't remember if I predicted him for the race win. It might have been Callum. But I predicted him in his top 3, and that's completely bottled straight away. So I do apologise in advance, Ben Mills. So, yeah, let's get our commentator's curses out the way. I almost did that in the pre-show at 12 o'clock earlier on as well. So lap 7 of 26. Marco makes his way in towards Stoke-on. I would expect him next lap for him to come into the box, which he does, and I would expect Kieran to follow suit. No, Kieran stays out, and you're going to see Lukey trying to close up there right now. I'm liking the mixture of strategies that we've got at the moment. I wonder which strategy is going to pay off dividends here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one thing that could really turn the race on its head, Jess, is obviously safety cars being deployed. Obviously, we hope that we don't see a safety car, but that is something that could flip everything on its head. And right now, you're seeing Ben Mills on those wet compound tyres, really struggling. And you got Callum now, who's got the undercut, and I think they will both come out ahead of Marco. And Marco's going to be over a second behind, but with Ben ahead of Callum can't gap Marco as what he would have liked.
Yeah, I think Ben must be very frustrated that he's going to see Callum breathe past. But sometimes you all make that mistake where it's happened to me.
Here goes Callum.
Here comes Callum as he goes through, easily does it. Actually, no. Ben's defending for his life here. Ben Ben's gonna not make this look easy. Ben's like, who cares if you're on the better side than me? I'm gonna fight for my life. Into Woodcote Corner they go. Callum, who is one of the favourites to win the title, along with Ben Mills, going toe-to-toe. Are we going to see this in the championship finale in Brazil? We don't know. Or will it be two completely different drivers? Or will it be a different combination of drivers? Callum having the better traction in towards Maggots and Beckett's corner for the 8th time of asking. You're riding the curbs. Callum can ride those curbs so much more than what Ben Mills can. Lukey's fighting for the lead in the background, but we want to watch the night fight for the net lead. Kieran is in the pits, so Lukey is your race leader. Here comes Callum. Is he going to go for it? He's got to go try for a send, but it's not going to work. They make a bit of contact, and that's unsettled Ben Mills' line a little bit, and Ben stayed out, Mike. Well, he had to at this point, because otherwise you'll lose track position.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened in P3, of course. What's called when I'm trying to. I believe it was Berjak, wasn't it? Who,
yeah, it was Berjak.
Yeah, obviously we saw what happened to him when he came into the pits. He lost a huge amount of time. He did manage to recover his race quite well in the end, but he lost so much track position compared to where he was. Obviously, Ben feeling he can get the elbows out. He can maybe hold off Callum and Marco for a few laps. Obviously, that will allow the likes of Kieran to go into the back. And importantly as well, Jess, this is big for Lukey's race because the Indus, even though he's on 8-lap-old Indus, he should be going quicker than the wet compound tyres. As here goes Marco through on Callum.
Yeah, those two go through, and we've seen that situation in both tiers where even though the Indus are the faster tyre, you just can't get past the wet runners. Silverstone is a much more difficult track to overtake on F125 than F124, especially on the wet, and especially with the dirty air coming into effect as well. And those wet tyres for Ben Mills, they're going to overheat very quickly because it's not going to be the right tyre. So if I was Callum, get the move done now. Stowe's probably going to be one of the easiest overtaking points on the circuit. Here comes Callum unarmed as he tucks through. He's losing so much time. I'm interested if he could get the lap data for me, Mike. I want to see what Callum's and Marco's lap time is as well, because Kieran is catching up to him as well, and that's going to allow the one to just pit in to close up as well. This is an absolute nightmare for these guys as we start lap 11. So what is the fastest lap for Callum, Mr. Edwards?
The fastest lap for Callum right now is a 1:43.1.
That's a few seconds off. That's a few seconds off Lukey's fastest lap time. So they're losing 2 seconds a lap.
And the fastest for Marco is 43.2. And of course, in comparison to Lukey right now, his fastest is a 41.5. And that was set on the last lap.
Yeah, and I have to say, one of the ones who is doing very well on the wet is Casper. He's in P2. He's got a decent gap to Nick. Nick's not closing up that much at the moment. So if I was maybe Casper pit, maybe potentially pit now for the undercut, and you can get the gain the advantage on Lukey and Nick. Don't forget, the ones who have been out there for the majority of the race. Here comes Callum, trying to get past Ben Mills, side by side into Cop's corner, and Ben tries to hold on to the right-hand side for Maggots and Beckett's, and Ben still has the edge. Ben is a defensive machine right now here at Silverstone.
Kieran's on the back of him now, so this is a four-way battle. As Kieran's joined the train, he's joined the fight, and now we're going to see how that lap time between Kieran and Ricardo begins to fall.
I know, and look at Marco. He's trying to get past Callum as well. He thinks, after Marco thinks he can get past both of them, but it's going to be a lot harder. Casper goes in, so he must have followed my advice somehow. Casper goes in. I would expect he will go onto a set of inters, and with them being held up that much, Casper's not going to lose that much time to these guys potentially, which I think will be an absolute relief for him that he's not going to have that deficit at the moment. Lukey still leads from Nick and P2. Who would have thought I would have said that on F125? Don't forget, it's Nick last season before he welcomed a new arrival to the Egan household. Massive congratulations, by the way, to himself and his wife, Ellie. Ooh. And what's happened?
Actually, I just thought of something.
What?
Is Ben fighting this hard to help Lukey's race out? Because the gap between Lukey and Ben is around about 22
They're
seconds, so
not in a
23 and
party
24.
though, so
Yeah, but the teammates, isn't he?
that is a good point.
Is there some Williams shenanigans?
Already on race 1 of 12, but don't forget you are allowed to hold up people if you are teammates, but if you are slowing down to help a different person like an esports teammate, you're not allowed to do that. As Kieran has got through on Callum into Cops corner, what a move!
Yeah, Callum, he just went in a little bit too deep into Cops and I got onto the outside curb and I allow Kieran all the time in the world just to get through. And now Marco's in prime position to get this move done on Ben. Let's see if he's going to have better luck than what Callum did this time.
Oh, goes through. That was easy done, I think. Yes, what he had to. I had a feeling that Marco and Ben's in. I think as soon as he saw someone get past, he's like, right, I've done my job. I'm going in. But maybe he just wanted to stay out and have a bit of fun. Or maybe he was playing the team game. I don't know. I'm a bit surprised about that because, of course, Ben is going for the title. And if you don't want to lose out on points like that. So sometimes you got to change your strategy a little bit. So Marco is your net race leader at the moment. His main focus now is to try and close in on a gap to make sure he still remains in the lead once the top 4 come into the pits, which is easier said than done around here. And also don't forget with Ben Mills, he has done his 2 stops, okay? So if the rain, if it happened what we saw in P3 and P2, if it is not enough for slicks, Ben could stay out to the end of this race. So Ben's race is not over, Mike.
No, absolutely not. It's not over at all. I mean, his tyres are going to be incredibly worn by the end of this race if he decides to not make another stop. But he should be able to get those inders to the end. And he might be able to salvage himself a top 5 finish, maybe by the end of this race. It all depends on the pace that we'll have on the intermediates early on. But right now, I know for a fact that Callum Anand is absolutely seething that he couldn't get through on Ben, and Marco did it on first asking.
Yeah, I think maybe Marco has got a bit more of a setup that's really, I think, intertwined and suitable for these conditions. And of course, these drivers did not have enough time to get a setup, but they've had more time compared to the other tiers. So for some people, it's no excuse. But there's some drivers that are still getting used to creating setups on F125. But don't forget, if you do !SRS, you could use the code OneHubRacing to get 5% off all F125 setups. And it does have wet and intermediate setups as well. So for those people that do have these type of setups, all they could do, just load a wet setup, boom, bing, bam, boom. There you go. And run it, and you don't even need to think about it. All you got to think about is fuel and strategy. That is it. So make sure that if you haven't already, use the code OneHubRacing to get 5% off setups. You can go onto their website, simracingsetups.com. Gaps increase in 18 seconds. Old teammates are in P1 and P2 right now. Chris in P3 is having a ding-dong fight with Colin, and we've seen them fight before, and honestly, it's like a return to the history books, isn't it? It's great to see, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Jess? I'm looking at this top 4 right now, and I got a nice little smile on my face looking at this top 4. Lukey, Nick, Chris, and Colin.
Yeah, I don't think they would expect that. Yes, a few people will drop right down the order, but the most important thing is they were having fun. Nick's main goal with his last season before he has to get occupied with other things, such as a new arrival, he just wants to have some fun and have lots of battles, which he is doing at the moment, to be fair. So fair play. And Chris he's in a Ferrari sandwich right now, and we know with Nick, he is going to do his damn hardest to make sure Chris does not have a sniff at either himself or his teammate Colin, and I'm really excited to see how that does. Marco sets the fastest lap. He is on a mission right now. Don't forget, Marco's your net race leader. If there's a safety car, he is definitely in play compared to the other drivers. Roadbite, I believe, is going for his second stop. as well, as we're approaching the halfway mark. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us on our social medias at One Hub Racing, as Nick's pulling off a gap just a little bit, but these three are definitely giving us something to smile about as well. Let's watch Callum unarmed in P7. He still can't get past Kieran. Maybe he's just not comfortable in the dirty air compared to everybody else. He's fine with clear air, but with dirty air, he's just struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I think potentially, obviously, he's trying to get himself back in the rhythm again now. After what I can only imagine was a high frustration from him being stuck behind Ben Mills for as long as he was, and sometimes, Jess, I mean, we've all been through this. When you're driving, once the tempers start to flare, it does take a lap or two for you to dial yourself back into it. And I'm not gonna lie, I just saw a battle for the first time between Ben Mills and Catherine down in 16th and 17th, and Ben making progress now up into P16.
And like I was saying earlier, Ben does not need to stop again. So if the track doesn't get suitable for dry conditions, he can stay out to the end and he'll be on net race either. Callum is in the pits for his second stop as well. So when he comes in, a smart move, I think, because he's going to have the clearer air and he's not going to get held up by people, hopefully. So here he comes then. He won't have to do any more stops until the end of this race. And we'll see where he comes out in relation to Ben Mills. Where is Ben Mills on the circuit? Ben Mills is heading towards Abbey. And I think he's going to be comfortably ahead, but you never know. Yeah, way ahead compared to Callum. He got held up so much, about 2 seconds. Even Catherine got ahead, but Catherine still yet to do one more stop too. So the question is, when would you make your second stop? Because we know that the track's meant to dry up, but how much is going to dry up? In both P3 and P2, it was only dry, well, in P3 at least, it was only dry for like half of that, and then it was wet again. In P2, it was dry for like 3 laps, and then it got wet again after that. But still, most people stayed on inters.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting when it does go dry, but it's not going to stay dry enough to warrant a switch over to the inters. The one thing that obviously these drivers need to think about as well, and if I'm Marco, for example, or Kieran, I want to pit at the end of that dry period because I do not want to be out on the track in dry conditions on a fresh set of inters overheating them, because that's just not going to be good.
That's what discarded me from a good result, to be fair, was I pitted a bit late. So that's going to be a worry for the top 4, I would say. What would you do if you were the top 4, Mike? Because you still got to make your 2 stops. And those 4 drivers, they know how to do the 2 stops. So they haven't forgotten. They're just hoping that it works out in their favour. It's Ben Mills set the fastest lap of the race.
I mean, if I'm Lukey, I'm coming into the pits at the end of this lap. There's no reason for Lukey to still be out there. He's done 15 laps on these inters. Definitely needs to come into the pits. Nick, Chris, and Colin as well. It's just they've already lost a whole pit stop to the likes of Kieran, and obviously they would lose a pit stop to Callum and Marco and Ben as well, for that matter. So they've already lost a huge amount of time by staying out too long on this first set of inters, in my opinion.
Yeah,
maybe they're praying for a safety car, but it's not coming.
No, I think we've seen a VSC in P3. I think it was Lukey said. Yeah, we saw a VSC in P3, and that was it. And I can't remember what it was called. I think it was at the lap 3 or lap 4. I think it was. So and in P2 we had no safety car. Kind of wish we had one, to be honest. But there you go.
Double stack of Ferrari.
Double stack of Ferrari. Well, they had to, because otherwise they were going to lose so much more time, Mike.
Yeah, and Lukey's gone on a set of the mediums.
Oh, no. No. It is far too wet. I don't know what he has done.
It is far too wet. However, if it does go dry...
But he still has to wait one more stop anyway. So If he didn't have to make one more stop, then he would have probably made the wrong decision. But
oh, he's struggling. He's struggling massively.
Lukey. And we're going to see, I think, Ricardo easily get past him there. He was brave, bless him. If he was on Inters, he probably would have stayed P3. But good, worth the gamble, though. Fair play.
Yeah, Ricardo down the inside, and yeah, Lukey's just gonna have to. He's gonna have to tiptoe around for a couple of laps and then come back in and go on the set of the Inters because he's still on course for
a top 10.
A top 4 for it. He could be on a podium as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he's doing. I've got a strong prediction. I think it's going to get heavier. I think it's going to get heavier from this point on. That's my prediction. So if I was Lukey, I would come in, go onto a set of Inters, get your stop done. Boom. There you go. Because I think quite a lot of other people will be in the same situation. So we've got your leaders. Chris is... I don't know why Chris is staying out, to be honest, because look at that. Kieran's already catch him.
Yeah, Lukey's got to come back into the pits, and yes, he is. So he did do that one lap on the mediums just to get one of the pit stops out of the way, and he's back in the pits. I think he is going to come out behind the likes of Ben Mills, Callum Armed, and Marco. It's going to be close between himself and Nick, I think.
Yep, I think so. Nick has did a very good pit stop, I have to say, but Nick still has to do one more stop as well. I will get...
Well, Nick's only a second off the back of
yeah,
Marco.
exactly. I will get the pit stops here as well. The ones that have done 2 stops are Ben Mills, Callum Unarmed, Marco, and now Lukey. I did say watch out for Ben Mills, even though he was on the wrong tyre. And was I right? Yes. You're welcome. If you want lottery numbers for next week... please message me in my DMs, JessGave35. Thank you very much.
Yep, I'll be right there now asking for the numbers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I think Ben Mills' strategy disaster class may not have been too bad because we saw how Lukey was able to get those into 16 laps. Ben's going to try and do the same. So maybe Lukey was the guinea pig for Ben Mills.
Potentially, I mean, it worked out for both of them in the sense because Lukey, I think if he pitted a couple of laps earlier,
on the right tyre,
right in this. Yeah, he would have been right in this fight with the likes of Callum, Marco, and Ben Mills.
Oh, I've just seen in the chat, Lukey forgot to change his tyres. He forgot to change to Inters.
Ah,
that explains it then.
Well, I mean, he knows he can take these Inters to the end, so.
Yeah, as Chris comes in, he's going to lose out so much more time because... No, Chris!
Oh,
he's
no,
on
Chris.
softs. He's on softs.
No red wall soft tyres are out to play.
He has made, I think, a wrong decision here. As everyone else is going to go through. I will get the stops up on your screen to see. So your net race leader is Ben Mills from Callum, from Marco, from Jaco. I know he's not. Right, I will talk. Yeah, I'll talk about that once everyone else is pitted because there's a lot of people that have just pitted just now. And look at Chris, he is limping home. Actually, no, it's not too bad.
It's dry. It's almost dry now.
Are the top 4 wait for the dry period?
I mean,
answer the postcard, folks.
I mean, even if they were waiting for the dry period, I'd say come into the pits this lap and chuck on a fresh set of Inters. Because even if it is dry, it's not going to be dry for long.
Nope, it is definitely not. And Colin, you could tell it's going to try and easily get past. But look at that. It stopped raining. Well, Chris, I do apologise. I do apologise. You have made the right decision, but probably a lap too early. He's running out of VRS though, bless him. So, Ricardo comes in. We know it's going to get worse towards the end of the race. Would you risk a set of Inters but having it overheat, or would you wait for a few more laps and wait for it to be Inters again?
It depends on what the engineer's saying on
Oh,
how quickly. Call.
10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is a chance of his good result gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as I was saying, I think it all depends on what the engineer is telling you.
Ricardo's lost it at the exit. And he's trying to get his tyres up to temperature, and it's just not working. As we've got a yellow flag, and that's probably is him, but I think if it was me, I would have gone on to a set of the dries for now, just to hope and pray that it stays out. Chris is now 7.5 seconds behind Marco here. This could work out very well.
Yeah, and you got Luki on the fresher, the Inters, only 1.2 behind Chris as well. So you got to think with Ben's tyres as well being 8 laps old and beginning to overheat now in the drier conditions. He's going to be backing Callum and Marco up, I think. Because we saw him do it earlier on. He can defend like an absolute trooper, can Ben Mills. So let's not rule Luki out of getting onto the back of these guys. I think with Chris, it all depends when it starts raining again.
Kieran's pitting. Kieran is pitting. Axlock's pitting as well. Ben stays out. I wonder, is Ben going to do all he can to try and make sure his teammate has a sniff? It's raining. It's raining. Kieran, Axelot, please go on Inters. They're not. Kieran's on it, softs. But Axelot, thank goodness, he is seed sent. He has gone on Inters. You can tell who's watched the previous streams and who hasn't, because Kieran, he's going to have to pit again.
Yeah, there's droplets falling now on the track. Not heavy yet, but we did see in only P3, but also in P2 as well. It did get a lot heavier towards the end of the race.
Yep, I think for P3 it was just like dry then wet again. P1, I think it was similar to what we saw in a little bit in P3, we don't know. That's just opened up the doors so much. Well, look at the stops as Road Bikes retired from the session in the pit lane. Stops then. Everyone's done 2 stops apart from Chris. So...
Oh, Jess.
What? Penalty 3 seconds.
I'm sensing a cheeky team versus team battle going on right now. Williams and McLaren, because look who's on the back of Luki.
Jaco. Oh, I'm excited. I am excited. Welcome to One Hub Racing. I've been dying to commentate on this for so long, and we get some good racing. We get some inter-team battles. This is what we want to see. F125 is definitely bringing out the best in One Hub Racing. We've got 3 tiers. We got the pinnacle of One Hub Racing on a Sunday night at 7:30. That's the place to be, as Colin has picked himself a time penalty, which is not going to help him. Ben Mills, he's going to have to play a strategy masterclass on his life and defend for his life here, because the constructors, I've seen in quite a lot of the interviews, a lot of drivers want to win the constructors. Ben Mills being one of them. Jaco, Callum and Arms, even the 2 racing balls want to have a chance at the constructors as well. We have a lot of teams that want to help each other, that are so even on pace, but we have the equaliser of the adaptive weather system that is changing things rapidly right now, and you can see that Ben's old tide is not going to help Callum and Marco here whatsoever. To be fair, Kieran is not doing too bad on the set of the slicks, so this might last quite a bit, you know, as Callum takes quite a bit of curve into Cop's corner, and he's trying to... He's got to do what we saw Marco do about 5 or 6 laps ago. He can't afford to just be stuck behind Ben Mills, because that's where he lost the time earlier. And you're gonna probably see other drivers catch up. So here comes Callum unarmed. He's going to see what he can do. It's definitely Inters now. It is damp. So Kieran unfortunately has to pit. Chris unfortunately has to pit. Ricardo unfortunately has to pit.
Luki and Jaco as well.
Here comes Luki and Jaco. Jaco gets the move done, and this is crucial for the constructors, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, right now it's looking like it's either going to be McLaren or Williams topping the constructors early on. And that move from J. Cole on Luki could be very crucial because you got to imagine, obviously, they're going to overtake Chris in the pit lane. Kieran's going to have that penalty added on to him that he has right now, but his tyres are going to fall away at the end of this race, so
it's going to overheat.
Yeah.
I like a race, Mike, where I just don't know what's going on because you don't know who's going to go on the podium. To be fair, though, I've got the right top 3 at the moment. Not in the right order, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So if those top 3 could stay like that, those drivers, that'll be lovely. All I want is Callum to swap places with Ben Mills, and that'll be my top 3 all done and dusted. Thank you very much. But that's probably not going to happen. Well, on that 23 and 26,
Marco's through.
Marco's through. Oh, that was very brave heading into Beckett's. Well, Maggot, sorry. It is hard to tell which is which. As Ricardo get past Lukey on mediums. Wow. So maybe the mediums, Mike, is not all bad.
No, I mean, it looks very different compared to what we've seen in P2 and P3. It's looking a lot drier at this stage on the track compared to the lower tiers. And that's, of course, the adaptive weather and, of course, the approximate weather.
Kieran trying his best to hold on to P3 from Callum, but Kieran's almost lost it. He just about saved it. How did he not get into a wall? I do not know.
This is nail-biting stuff right now. Of course, you got Kieran on the set of the soft tyres, and he is dicing us. You got Ben Mills and Callum battling now. Marco's going to the race lead, and here goes Callum around the outside. Oh, onto the grass he goes, and a little bit of contact between the pit, but Marco into the race lead.
Marco, this is crucial for Marco, and he's 2.3 seconds. He's allowing the Ben Mills and Cam to fight with Kieran, and he's loving life up front. This could be huge to open his championship on a high. That is not what I'm expecting, as Ben does not get past Kieran there. Look, he does get past Ricardo now. Look at Axelot. What a move. Axelot, take a bow. That was really brave and a half as he entered Woodcote.
I think Ben might have damage here because he really struggled. Oh, he's got a puncher.
Puncher, no,
Ben's got a puncher.
Ben's got a puncher. He must be devastated, so he has to come into the pits, and he's going to potentially lose out on some points. So surely, Mike, that is McLaren championship leaders. That's Kieran up to P2
it looks
somehow.
Like a double podium as well. Double podium potentially as Kieran goes wide. That's going to allow Jacob through. It's a McLaren 2-3 right now.
And look at Lukey and Axelot. They're fighting. Oh, my God. There's just so much battling happening in the last few laps. It's gone crazy here at One Hub Racing P1 tier.
Yeah, absolutely. As Ricardo's into the pit lane, honestly, at this stage, I probably would have just stayed out on the mediums, mate.
Are you sure about that?
He's given up an awful lot of track position to go into a set of inters at the end.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I would have done the opposite, honestly, and pitted, but Ben's, fair play for him sticking it out like that, but maybe he must just overdone it with his driving style potentially, and a potential race win for Ben Mills is out of the window. And Jacobs in P2. From one commentator to another one, this is really great to see, isn't it, Mike? As Axelot and Lukey are still going toe-to-toe through into the national pit straight. Lukey's not going to give up without a fight here. You can see Kieran in obviously the field of view heading towards Cobb's Corner, in towards the Escapade houses, which just look beautiful on the game. And Lukey is trying to get the better traction. You could, Kieran, to be fair, is not doing too bad on those set of softs, but you can tell in some corners he is struggling.
Yeah, and this is why I thought it'd be a mistake for Ricardo to chuck on the set of the inters this late into the race, because even though he will have the tyre advantage on the inters in front of him, it's just a huge amount of time, and he was up in the P8, so he could have snagged a point or two out of it.
That's a lock! Axel almost got it done. Lukey's got to get through here. Oh, contact! Contact between the pair of them. Lukey's got to go through here, and they're both sliding. the inters with dirty air. I have to tell you, as we got to get to the end of the race, it's going to be hard going for these guys.
Oh, he's got so much more grip in the corners, though, and Lukey just can't find a way through. But maybe now in towards
there
a
we
village down
go.
the inside.
There
And
we go.
Axel can try and follow him through. And Callum's dropping off as well. Has Callum
Has
got
he
a puncher?
puncher? Yes, he has. Callum's got a puncher. Oh, he run out of fuel. Has Callum run out of fuel? Puncher. Oh, my goodness. So, what we're seeing on track is a battle for the podium.
I am looking right now. My eyes are glued on to Marco because his tyres might be the next one to go, and that might allow J. Cole to take a race win here in round one.
Oh, wait a minute, yellow flag. Oh no, that's something going on behind. Thank God for that. If Marco loses this race win, I'm gonna be so annoyed because he's driven so well. He played the strategy right. He's basically got this win in the bag as long as he doesn't get a puncher. He let everybody else fight. When Callum couldn't get the move on Ben Mills, Marco did, and did a stellar job. Through goes Marco in towards Stowe Corner. As long as he doesn't run out of fuel, I think he will just about be out. Oh, he's got plenty of fuel. He's got plenty of fuel. So as long as he hasn't got a puncher, he'll be fine. Marco comes across the line. He wins the opening round here in the B1 tier in Silverstone. J. Cole gets second, but Axelot got the move done in towards the Hangar Straight, and it is going to be Axelot that snatches the podium away from Lukey at the last minute on track, but it is Lukey that gets P3 from Casper with a good recovery to P4. Axelot in 5th, Owen Wyatt in 6th. Where did he come from? Well, the answer to that, he picks up no penalties, and if you get no penalties, it rewards you. Callum dropped down to 8th. Pelzy having a good race as well. Catherine with her first race in the P1 tier, getting her first point. She probably wouldn't be expecting that. And her teammate Alexa joins her, and Ben just misses out by 1.3 seconds. Oh, Mike, it's great to be back.
I am not going to lie. I echo the absolute thoughts and sentiments of everyone in the chat right now. Larkin, unbelievable scenes. Entity saying what a race, and what a race that was right at the end. The punchers coming into effect. It was almost like Silverstone from a few years ago where Hamilton came across the line on 3 wheels.
Yeah, and we thought that I think if Marco raced for one more lap, he probably would have got it, the puncher as well. But I'm so relieved that he didn't. And we got to pick our sim racing setup driver of the day at some point. We have to call it that, by the way, because of course sim racing setups are providing prizes to each driver of the day per tier. So we'll run through your order in just a minute, and we've had 3 superb races tonight, and this one has topped it by a country mile with all that battling happening at the moment. So the in-game driver of the day goes to Owen Wyatt, but who we're going to give our sim racing setup driver of the day remains to be seen. So here is your order then. Marco wins from J. Cole, from Lukey. He'll be really happy with that, considering he said to me last week, oh, I'm struggling. I don't think I'm going to do well. Well, you just picked up your first podium of the season. Then we got Casper in P4. Then we got Axelot, Owen, Kieran, Callum, Chris, Pelzy, Catherine, Alexa, your final point finisher. And he gets the fastest lap inside the top 10. Outside the top 10 belongs to Chris, so well done to him. Then we've got Ben Mills, Nick, Ricardo, Collie. He didn't have a good race, unfortunately. Neither did Colin, and neither did Robite, who has unfortunately DNF'd. Right, we got to pick our sim racing setup driver of the day now, and we got to think of a question to ask them. Mike, I will let you go first. Who is your sim racing setup driver of the day, and what would you like to ask him or her?
I'm stuck between 2 names, I'm not gonna lie. Do I make it easy for you and you have the one and I take the other?
I don't know who I'm gonna pick, so you go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it to Marco, just for the pace he had throughout the entire race. And he was able to get the moves done when it mattered, whereas obviously we saw earlier on in the race where Callum was unable to get through on Ben Mills. Marco did not have that issue. And my question to Marco would be, congratulations on your first victory of the season. And was you expecting to be there with no challengers towards the end, with punches happening to your competitors left, right, and centre? And how nervous was you of a puncher at the end?
I have to say, good choice of driver of the day. I'm torn between two. You can probably guess who I'm torn between. The other two guys on the podium. I'm torn between those two. Oh, I think the only reason why I'm going to go for this person, because he wasn't the one who made a mistake and went on the wrong tyre. So if that person did not go for the wrong tyre, he would have been my sim racing setup driver of the day nominee. Lots of words in one go. But because he was able to make moves, he was able to make the strategy work right, I'm going to go for Jaco. Absolute fantastic result from him on his return to One Hub Racing. I think he'll be very happy with that. Considering he was commentating the race before, I would expect him to be tired after that. But no, he was having a bit of fun. My question for him is, were you expecting to get a podium on return to One Hub Racing? And how difficult were these conditions out there? So that is my question. I would have given it to Lukey if Lukey chose the right tyre. But there we go. But to be fair, we've all done that. I've done that at the Women Esports Finals. But we are going to wrap it up because I'm still going to try and recover on what's just gone on. We have got Canada up next week. We know that could throw some curveballs in terms of the weather. What would you expect going into next week, Mike?
I am expecting to see a lot of 3-second time penalties. The chicanes around Canada are brutal, and it's so easy to pick them up. So a little tip for all the drivers going into next week: as long as you keep it penalty free, you have a chance of a very good result.
Yep, I have to say. And that goes my advice in terms of all tiers. If you keep it... speaking from experience, in every league I've been in, I've been on the podium on F1 24 around Canada just by keeping it clean. So just don't get penalties. But it's going to be a lot of work to do as well. It's nice and fast flowing. It is a short lap as well. And it is going to be interesting, to say the least. The last race before our first break we due to the bank holiday. So whilst we recover from what has been 3 fantastic races, 3 opening races to One Hub Racing, we hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please leave a like on this video if you're watching this back. If you're watching this live, make sure you follow us on Twitch and also follow us on our social media channels at One Hub Racing on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. The list goes on. Make sure you follow us as well. Also join our Discord server, and also make sure you check out our sponsors, Next Level Racing, who are providing some prizes for us this season, sim racing setups. If you use the code One Hub Racing, you will get 5% off all setups on F1 25 by using the code there as well. And the winner of the drive of the day in the P1 tier is either going to be Jaco or Marco, will get a £10 voucher from Sim Racing Setup. So I wonder who it's going to be. Well, the drivers will be voting on that a little bit later on. Then we go to our partners. Vespertine are supporting our merch this season. And also, finally, our partners at SimGrid. Without SimGrid, we wouldn't be here today because we would have to do forms and spreadsheets, and it would take an absolute nightmare. We're going to have a bit of a rest now. You could join us next week. Our next stream will be on Thursday or Friday for Inside the Stewards Room. Then we got the pre-race show on Sunday at 12 o'clock. And then our next stream for P3 will be at 4:30 UK time for Canada. And our race will be at 7:30 PM. So for myself and Mike Edwards, thank you so much for watching. It's been a great race. Welcome back to One Hub Racing. I'm looking forward to more of the same action again. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.